A little housekeepers, please silence your telephones, please. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sheila Switzer. I'm the program chair of the AAFSW. I would like to welcome everyone joining us today, either virtually or here at this beautiful historic DACOR house, just 2 blocks from the White House. We are very happy to have you with us today for the presentation of the Secretary of our, for the presentation of the Secretary of State Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad, the Eleanor Dodson Tragen Award, the CCF-EFM Award, and the Leslie Dorman Award. We are honored to have recording remarks from the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and we give our warm welcome to the Deputy Secretary for Management and Resources, Brian McKeon, who has joined us today to present the awards. We will also be joined virtually by Irving Tragen, the founder of the Tragen Award. We welcome our many distinguished guests, presenters, friends, and especially the 13 winners. We are very happy that you are here. We are very proud of their achievements. And we thank you for joining us today to honor them. I would like now to introduce our AAFSW President, Lara Center. Lara is a recipient of the SOSA Awards for her volunteer work in Luxembourg. And she also served as a SOSA chair and before becoming the AAFSW President. Thank you, Lara.
Good morning. Thank you, Sheila. Hi, my name is Laura Center, and I am the president of the Associates of the American Foreign Service Worldwide, better known as AAFSW. I would like to take a moment to share more about AAFSW. Established in 1960, AAFSW is a membership-based association within the American Foreign Affairs community. We promote the goals and serve the needs of our community through advocacy, outreach, awards, scholarships, services, and networking events. In the time since our previous award ceremony, the Foreign Affairs community has lost 2 distinguished statesmen, former Secretaries of State George Shultz and Colin Powell. Both of these former secretaries made lasting impressions at the State Department, on the world as a whole, and even on the awards we are gathered here to commemorate. Secretary Shultz celebrated his 100th birthday last December. Even at 100, Secretary Shultz remained engaged in current events, recognizing, quote, American diplomats will face a host of rapid changes, 21st century technologies, a radically different global demography, new forms of weaponry, and climate change. This quote is from a thank you note dated January 31st, 2021, to those who contributed to a 45-minute video collage of birthday wishes from friends, colleagues, and acquaintances, including AAFSW. As an organization of U.S. Foreign Affairs personnel and family members, we deeply appreciate Secretary Powell's long and distinguished service to our country. During his time as Secretary of State, he instilled a sense of pride in our duties and responsibilities serving the United States. He valued the Foreign Service community, including family members, and supported us in many ways. AAFSW has been very grateful for the support of both of these former secretaries through their generous donations to the Secretary of State Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad. which allows AAFSW to gift a monetary award to the SOSA winners. The award carries this prestigious name not only because the Secretary of State who suggested it, James Baker, along with his wife Susan Baker, but also because it celebrates the most noteworthy volunteer work carried out overseas by our Foreign Service community, employees and family members alike. They are out there showing the world the American spirit of volunteerism, and our Secretaries of State, including Secretary Blinken, who recorded his remarks for today, are deeply appreciative of these efforts. We will miss Secretary Schultz and Secretary Powell. Let us take a very brief moment of silence now to honor and remember them. Thank you. It is my privilege to welcome you to the annual AAFSW Awards ceremony. The Department of State is still not hosting events at this time because of COVID-19. However, we are fortunate to have the historic DACOR Bacon House, built in 1825, as our backdrop for today's ceremony. We are fortunate to be joined by many friends and family around the globe. I want to say a special thank you to Deputy Assistant Secretary Karen Sullivan, Executive Director for WHA Carla Flaherty, Deputy Executive Director for WHA Janine Young, Acting Director of the National Museum of American Diplomacy Susan Cleary, AAFSA President Eric Rubin, and Foreign Service Youth Foundation Executive Director Johnette Cahoon Vaughn for joining us virtually today. And thank you for your continued support in recognizing our exceptional Foreign Service community. So we've reached the time of our program where I would be introducing the Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources, Brian McEwen, who has not arrived yet. So I'm going to jump ahead for a moment, if you don't mind. And at this time, I would like to invite Patricia Linderman, a former AAFSW President and Tragan Award winner, and the current volunteer chair of the Secretary of State Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad, to begin with the awards presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. If Deputy Secretary McEwen comes, we'll just pivot. But meanwhile, my husband is retiring at the end of this year after 31 years in the Foreign Service. I'm so proud of him, and I've been so impressed by the foreign affairs professionals and local staff we have met and worked with in 7 countries. But I'd like to highlight another group today that has never failed to impress me, my fellow eligible family members, or EFMs. 10 of our 14 awardees today are EFMs, and they remind me once again why I am so proud and honored to be part of this community. EFMs, has it ever happened to you? It happened to me many times in 31 years. You're at a diplomatic reception, and when someone finds out you're a spouse, they're looking over your shoulder to see who else is there to network with. They don't know what they're missing. As you will hear in Secretary Blinken's inspiring remarks, today we are honoring some EFMs whose achievements were at least as impactful as work done within the walls of our diplomatic missions, like reaching 1 million ordinary people in China, creating a grassroots program to discuss and combat racism in Brazil, helping migrant workers escape from exploitation, and much, much more. And our Champions of Career Enhancement for EFMs award winner, an EFM himself, recognized that great talent pool and figured out how to harness it for high-level mobile careers. As Laura mentioned, SOSA started with Susan Baker traveling with Secretary James Baker when she saw the incredible volunteer work being done by spouses at overseas posts. And she said, we have to find a way to honor this. The Bakers still donate to the award year after year. Of course, we now also have the Tragan, Dorman, and CCEFM awards, as well as SOSA. And besides 9 spouses, we are honoring 3 employees and 1 college student whose volunteer work has been truly exceptional, as you will see. I'm proud to be a family member in a community that includes Susan Baker and the AAFSW volunteers who do so many great things, including organizing this ceremony along with our wonderful partners at DACOR. And I'm proud to have been part of this broader community for 31 years. This community of foreign affairs employees, local staff, and family members, these 1,000 points of light all over the world, to go back to the Baker era, engaged in the small and large tasks of professional diplomacy and citizen diplomacy. I salute our awardees here today, and I salute you all. It's been an honor to know you. I will now continue the ceremony with the presentation of the Secretary of State's Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad. We all have a little trouble with that. For the African Affairs Bureau, the Secretary of State's Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad goes to Carrie Juban. With a master's in autism spectrum disorders, Carrie had worked with students with exceptional learning needs prior to her posting in Windhoek, Namibia, as an eligible family member. There, she volunteered to serve as the ambassador's representative on the Windhoek International School Board for 2 years. She played a significant role on the board itself, but also proactively addressed challenges at the school far beyond her expected role, including the curriculum, teacher performance, finances, security, and hiring. According to her nominator, Deputy Chief of Mission Jessica P. Long, through Carrie's influence, the board went from being a detached and somewhat dysfunctional body to an organized group of people committed to addressing weaknesses and engaging all important stakeholders. Carrie's complete turnaround of the school's curriculum, finances, hiring, and security positively impacted the quality of education for current and future students, as well as the quality of life at Post. Carrie is joining us virtually today from her current post, Hanoi. Good evening, Carrie. Congratulations and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. I'm humbled and honored to be receiving this award today, and thank you. My lifelong desire has been helping children access inclusive education, and this passion is inspired by my parents, who are both educators, as well as the numerous teachers who have made an impact on my life. Working with the team at Windhoek International School was an incredible experience, and I learned far more than I ever thought I would. One thing I learned is that the schooling options for foreign service families is vital to their well-being at Post, and that investments in building positive relationships with the school brings valuable returns in helping the embassy community to thrive. I want to thank the individuals who afforded me with this opportunity. Thank you to Ambassador Lisa Johnson, Deputy Chief of Mission Peter Lord, Charge d'Affaires Jessica Long for your leadership of Mission Windhoek and your strong support for EFM engagement both inside and outside of embassy operations. I also want to thank the individuals from the diplomatic community who served before me in this role, particularly Lisa Atkins, for working to establish a strong long-term relationship between the embassy and the school. And I want to thank the school board team and the school administrators who tirelessly worked many, many hours to support the school and craft creative solutions for its success. Finally, I want to thank my family, to my parents, siblings, and in-laws for supporting us from afar as we live abroad. And most importantly, and especially, I want to thank my husband, Eric, and my 2 sons, Ezra and Cole, who put up with missed meals, missed bedtime stories, and postponed weekend outings so that I could complete this very important work for their school. Thank you very much. There you go.
Hello again. It is my privilege to introduce Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources, Brian McCune. Deputy Secretary McCune, United States government in various capacities throughout his career. He served more than 20 years in the U.S. Senate, including 12 years as Chief Counsel to the Democratic members of the Committee on Foreign Relations. He also served in several national security positions in the Obama-Biden administration. Most recently, he was a senior director for the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Deputy Secretary McCune. Like to join me?
So thank you very much. I apologize for being late. It was entirely our fault. I won't go into the details, but it was our fault. First, thanks for having me here today. It's really an honor to be here and to see the insides of this beautiful house. I was asking my staff yesterday, who is Bacon? So I looked it up myself, and it turns out it's also, he is known in legislation under something called the Davis-Bacon Act. For those of you familiar with American labor, it's very important to them because it sets a floor on prevailing wage for federal construction projects. I also want to thank, in addition to thanking the DACOR Bacon House, the Associates of the American Foreign Service Worldwide, for putting all this together, and DACOR for administering these awards. These are inspirational awards to me, the volunteerism that people undertake at posts to strengthen our communities, our embassy communities around the world. I'll have a few more words to say about it in a minute, but first I'm going to defer to the boss. The secretary he's on travel in Africa. He just spent a day in Kenya, and now he just landed in Nigeria. He's doing meetings there, and then he goes on to Senegal tomorrow. It's his first trip to Africa, but he did record a video before departing. So let's hear from him, and then I'll say a few more words.
Thank you to the Associates of American Foreign Service Worldwide for sponsoring the Secretary of State Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad, or SOSA, and to DACOR for hosting today's event. I want to welcome all the people joining us today, in person and online, particularly the loved ones of our extraordinary honorees. You've got a lot to be proud of. Before I speak to their individual efforts, let me highlight some common themes in their inspiring service. First, the honorees show that the work of American diplomacy is carried out not only by foreign and civil service officers, but by spouses and partners, household members, locally employed staff. Of the 6 individuals receiving SOSA awards this year, 5 are family members of Foreign Service employees. And their efforts show that diplomacy doesn't only happen in official meetings, negotiations, and other more conventional engagements, but in all the ways we engage with people in the places where we serve. Even the smallest interaction is a chance to practice the principles we preach, to treat people in a way that recognizes their fundamental dignity, to listen and show humility and decency. Second, many of the honorees have served the underserved communities that have been discriminated against or marginalized, people struggling to provide for their families in an emergency, victims of abuse and exploitation. Third, while today we'll recognize only a handful of individuals, every one of the awardees will tell you that they volunteered as part of a team. In fact, that's why they've been effective. They've brought others along. So in honoring these individuals, we also celebrate those who served alongside them. Finally, the spirit of service is something I see every time I have a chance to visit an embassy and meet with our colleagues and their families serving at posts abroad. That's reflected in the fact that in the 3 decades since these awards were established, the awardees have come from over 130 diplomatic missions. And while it's not the reason why the awardees volunteer, their service also makes the United States stronger in the world. It shows the best of who we are. With that, let me recognize this year's SOSA awardees. In Sao Paulo and Rio, Janet Peña Heredia created English language programs for guards and facility staff, promoted more inclusive consulate communities, and created space for meaningful conversations about systemic racism. And a committee she led fostered community volunteerism through a local orphanage, beach cleanups, and food donations. Sari Heidenreich and Layla Murphy teamed up in Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates to support the repatriation of Sierra Leonean domestic workers who were victims of trafficking and exploitation in Oman. They spearheaded an effort to raise nearly $30,000 for 43 Sierra Leoneans to be able to return home, manage repatriation logistics, provided training for hundreds of domestic workers, and spread broader awareness about the underlying drivers of these problems. In Namibia, Carrie Juban used her teacher training to strengthen programming at the embassy-supported school, deepening the curriculum, improving the campus's physical security, and recruiting a dynamic new educational director. In Shenyang, China, Sean Doyle created and implemented innovative cultural outreach initiatives to introduce American culture to the local community, including a live-streamed Thanksgiving cooking demonstration that reached nearly 1 million viewers. In Nur-Sultan, Kazakhstan, Muliani Ling led a range of volunteer activities, from organizing support for embassy families during the pandemic, to helping operate a soup kitchen and animal shelter, to providing support for autistic children and their families at a local center. We also honor 3 other individuals today. Fabi Mann, who is receiving the Eleanor Dodson Tragan Award, sponsored by DACOR. Tim Stuft, who's receiving AAFSW's Champions of Career Enhancement for Eligible Family Members Award. And Kathy Salvatera, who is this year's Leslie Dorman Award recipient for Outstanding Lifetime Service to AAFSW. The great Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis once said that the most important political office is that of private citizen. As these awardees demonstrate, the same can be said of our most important diplomatic office. So, huge congratulations to this year's honorees. Thank you all for being our model diplomats, for your service to the United States, our mission communities abroad, and local communities. I'm honored to serve alongside you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And with Thanksgiving coming up, we need to find Sean Doyle's video. Maybe a few people here are watching around the world who've never had to host Thanksgiving dinner for family members, so might be some tips. So I won't repeat what the Secretary said. I was also impressed with his smooth pronunciation of some challenging names. I just want to say a couple of things to express our gratitude for the work that all these amazing volunteers have done. So foreign service is a family business. You choose your spouse, but you don't always choose where you go, because the spouse is making these choices or the department is. And so you have to create a new life with your spouse or partner for you and your family everywhere you go, adjusting to a new culture, new language, new city, new colleagues. It's a significant sacrifice. I think that's underappreciated, probably even within the department for people who don't do it, and certainly external to the department. I've lived in the same house for 27 years. I once had the same job for 12 years. I knew John Bradshaw when I had that job at the Foreign Relations Committee, and met Mr. Castro as well. I have no idea what it's like to move every 2 or 3 years, change jobs, change bosses all the time. I recognize that it's a very significant sacrifice that everyone makes. You're missing birthdays, you're missing family events here, you're missing if maybe grandparents get sick and pass away. It's hard to come back. So we recognize and appreciate the significance of the sacrifice for all the family members serving in the Foreign Service. Second, in many ways, everyone who serves in the embassy community is an ambassador of the United States. There's obviously one person in the mission who has a fancy title and a certificate from the president, but you're all ambassadors because you are the face of America in that local community. The attitudes that you have and the behavior that you exemplify and the values that you exhibit tell the story about what the United States is and what we're about. Third, particularly in some smaller posts and more posts in faraway places, it can be a pretty isolating experience. So the embassy community is your family and is your community. So the volunteerism expressed not just in seeing through the stories that the awardees are getting, but all those others who are doing similar volunteer activities around the world is really essential to holding the community together and making people feel included in the great adventure that they're on. You know, we have in our position descriptions in the government, you have the specific duties you're assigned, and then occasionally it will say other duties as assigned. Well, all these people are doing things that were not assigned to them. They just decided, I am going to do this because I can, and I can make life better either for our fellow colleagues in the embassy or our locally employed staff or neighbors in this new community. So it's just the spirit exemplified by the awardees, but everyone else who's doing this kind of work is just, it's inspiring. And so on behalf of the secretary, he's already said thank you, but all the other leaders in the department, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's stepping up and making life better for yourselves and for the embassy community. So onward to the next step in this program.
Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary McKeown. He gets it. That's great. I'll move on with our next recipient of the Secretary of State's Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad, Sean Patrick Doyle. Yeah, we don't have his Thanksgiving video today. I wish we did. For the Bureau of East Asian and Pacific Affairs. Sean's true passion is outdoor education, and he has worked as a ski instructor and mountaineering guide in the Western United States, Alaska, and Japan. He has also taught English in 5 countries and spent 6 months in Antarctica. Finding himself the only male eligible family member in Shenyang, China, he looked for opportunities to become involved in both the consulate and local communities. As you heard from Secretary Blinken, Sean organized and hosted a wide range of events, both live and online, including the English Corner, activities for a delegation to Northern China, and the famous Thanksgiving demonstration, which has now reached over 1 million viewers. We agree completely with this quote from Sean. I think EFMs have a unique opportunity to impact international diplomacy because they interact with the host community on a daily basis. Building relationships with EFMs allows locals to learn about the United States and American values in an informal, non-threatening, and natural way. Sean joins us today virtually from Michigan. Congratulations and welcome, Sean.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to accept this award today. I'm very humbled and honored. I'd really like to thank the AAFSW and the DACOR Bacon House for organizing and hosting this event. I'd also like to thank the Shenyang CLO officers, Taylor Bernal and Andrea Wald, as well as all of the leadership at U.S. Consulate Shenyang for nominating me for this award. Finally, I'd like to thank my family for their constant support and encouragement. Most importantly, my wife for her continuous support and pushing me to get me involved with different activities at Post and for just to be an all-around better person. I'd also like to mention that my wife and I had our first child last week and are very excited about bringing another person into the Foreign Service family. I really enjoyed volunteering at the U.S. Consulate in Shenyang, China as an EFM because it helped me feel part of the team and connect with the local community. I think it's important for everyone in the Foreign Service to remember that EFMs are a valuable group of people at Post because of their unique perspective and skill set, which can contribute significantly to mission goals and priorities in creative and innovative ways. As a first tour family member, volunteering was an amazing way for me to start my Foreign Service life. I hope to continue to volunteer and contribute to the mission at our next post in Stockholm, Sweden. Thanks again for this honor and for the opportunity to celebrate with you all today.
Congratulations, Sean, and thank you. So for the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, the Social Selection Committee chose a team of 2 volunteers, Sari Heidenreich and Layla Soledad Murphy. So I will read their citation, and Layla is with us today. So then Layla will come up first. She will receive her certificate and she will speak, and then we will hear from Sari virtually. But first, let me tell you about what they did. Sari and Layla volunteered together while posted in different countries. Sari is an EFM in Kuwait City, Kuwait, and Layla, a college junior spending a gap semester with her family in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Working with the nonprofit organization Dobol, based in the Netherlands, Sari and Layla assisted over 200 Sierra Leonean domestic workers in Oman who were victims of human trafficking and/or labor exploitation, and whose situations were deteriorating further due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sari has volunteered with Dobol between 20 and 50 hours a week since November 2020, and has become the volunteer director of programs for Oman and Kuwait. Her work covers research, fundraising, organizational growth and partnerships, and direct support. She speaks regularly with over 200 women, providing a listening ear, emotional support, and education. And she states, I am often compelled to speak directly with the people keeping these women in forced labor situations to negotiate their release. Layla has volunteered 10 to 15 hours every week with Dobol since February 2020. Her main areas are social media and storytelling. She designed a compelling brand for the campaign and educated herself about ethical storytelling in order to collect and publish testimonials from the exploited women, as well as educational posts about human trafficking and forced labor. She also helped produce a video that included interviews with Sari and with women from the Sierra Leonean community in Oman. Layla grew up in the Foreign Service, which she says helped her appreciate the range of social challenges to be found across the globe. She says that her volunteer work in Abu Dhabi inspired a passion for workers' rights, along with her existing interest in combating gender-based violence and supporting women's mental and physical health. Congratulations, Layla, and thank you for joining us here today. Much.
Hi, everybody. I'd just like to start by thanking Secretary Blinken for his virtual remarks, Deputy Secretary McEwen, President Center, Program Chair Switzer, and SOSA Chair Linderman, as well as the DACOR Bacon House for your participation in and organization of this event. I think I speak for both Sari and I when I say that we're humbled to receive this award for our work with DuBold, and we're very grateful to be here, whether virtually or in person, to meet you all and to share a bit about this cause, which has become such a big part of our lives. I also want to thank Sari, my co-recipient and mentor, who is nurturing, intelligent, and kind, and who seems to have boundless energy to dedicate to this work. I also thank DuBold for bringing us together and for all the lives that they have changed through their contributions. When abroad through the Foreign Service, many of us interact with migrant workers in many different capacities, whether they guard our embassies, work in our offices, or help to raise our children. We avail ourselves of their support in and out of our homes. And if your family is anything like mine, migrant domestic workers often feel like close and trusted relatives. Migrant workers, however, lie at the intersection of a variety of legal and social vulnerabilities. Through a tiny nonprofit organization called DuBold, Sari and I worked mostly with African women employed as domestic workers in the Gulf. Most had suffered grave emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, and they found us in desperation. Because they lack legal protections, domestic workers in the Gulf region are often subjected to excessively long working hours and typically get no days off. They're given inadequate food and medical care, and they're paid unreliably or incompletely, if at all. Among cases that we saw, it was typical for employers to lock workers in their rooms, to confiscate their passports, or to rape them. Most workers lack the funds to buy their own tickets home, but even if they could, many employers and legal systems that protect them make it effectively impossible to quit. To endure this level of abuse in a country that's not your own, away from your family and network of support, something all of us are familiar with, I think, creates life-altering trauma, even for those who are lucky enough to make it out. My work through Do Bold, as Ms. Linderman introduced, involved raising money to repatriate dozens of workers, we call each other sisters, to Sierra Leone, collecting information, survey information about their living and working conditions, and providing emotional support one-on-one for 6 months. This has been a deeply rewarding and sometimes troubling experience. I have witnessed the sisters' incredible resilience, as well as their humor and joy. They have suffered and fought, and they deserve to rest. I'd like to close with the following. If you can think of a time that a migrant worker made your life or your work better, consider volunteering your time or money to an organization doing on-the-ground justice or advocacy work. We ought to support those who have so long supported us. Thank you again to AAFSW and everyone here for allowing us to speak about this cause and to share in celebration with you, and I will pass it on to Sari.
Thank you, Layla. And as Layla already said, thank you to everyone who's been a part of making this award happen, including our family and friends who have supported our work over this past year. It's truly an honor to be a recipient of this award alongside so many amazing colleagues, including Layla, who, as you just saw, is an absolutely incredible human being. I also want to thank our colleagues at Do Bold, who work tirelessly every day to protect the rights of migrant workers across the Gulf. Picking up where Layla left off, I want to share with you the story of one woman who really had an impact on me. I've changed her name for her privacy. Aisha is from Sierra Leone, and at a young age, her mother and father died, leaving her to care for her young sister, who is now 10 years old. More than anything, Aisha wanted her sister to get an education. One day, a neighbor told her that if she went to the Middle East to work, she could make a lot of money. He told her she would make $500 a month working at a supermarket in Iraq. After 2 to 3 months, they'd even increase her salary to $600 a month. To pay the fees she needed to go, Aisha worked odd jobs and asked her mosque for help. When she landed in Oman, Aisha was shocked not only to be in Oman, but also to be told that she would be a live-in domestic worker. As soon as she tried to confront her recruiters, they stopped taking her calls. Isolated and with no money to return, she was forced to live in an employer's home. There, she worked from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. every single day. She had no day off, as is the case for the majority of women we work with. After a month, Aisha had to do a medical checkup to finalize her visa, and she failed, which meant she had to return home. But the recruitment agency demanded that she pay her own way. When she got in touch with us, Aisha was beside herself. She was so worried about her sister back home. All she wanted was to provide for her to be safe and well and educated. But Aisha was trapped, kept in an office where they stole her salary and didn't give her food. Because of the money Layla and I helped raise, Do Bold was able to help Aisha get home to her sister. Now she's working, making approximately $30 a week, and paying for her sister to get that education she dreamed of. Migrant workers around the world, and domestic workers in particular, are very vulnerable. They need our support, whether that be our time or our finances or our influence. I found it incredibly enriching and meaningful to be a part of their lives, and I think you'll find the same. Thank you.
Next, for the Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs, the winner of the Secretary of State's Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad is Muliani Ling, who is with us today. I'll read about her for a moment and then she can accept her certificate and speak. As an eligible family member in Nur-Sultan, Kazakhstan, Muliani contributed greatly to both the embassy and local communities. She volunteered each week with the Missionaries of Charity, founded by Mother Teresa, assisting with fundraising and a soup kitchen that fed thousands of people. She helped the sisters run summer camps for needy young children. She volunteered, as Secretary Blinken mentioned, at a rehabilitation center for children with autism, helping the children, the staff, and also the parents who had few other sources of support. She also collected donated supplies to support a new independent animal shelter in a place that lacks government facilities to spay, neuter, and protect stray animals. I'd like to read from Muliani's nomination, submitted by Melissa Doherty. The SOSA Award is meant to recognize remarkable service to the mission community, outstanding activities directed toward the host country, or exceptional service in emergency situations. This is not an or situation, it is an and situation. It is abundantly clear that Muliani meets not just one of these categories, but all three. She volunteered at every opportunity to serve the mission community. She undertook countless efforts to serve the people of the host country, and she provided invaluable service to embassy families during the pandemic emergency. Congratulations and welcome to Muliani.
Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to thank the volunteers of the AAFSW-SOSA committee. Each and every one of them did an impressive job and worked tirelessly to make this event happen. And they include Lara Center, Patricia Linderman, Nami Crittenbrink, Mary Beecroft, and Barbara Rio. Thank you also to DACOR, and a special thanks to the donors that make SOSA possible, including Green Family Foundation and James and Susan Baker. And of course, it was a special honor to have Secretary of State Pinklin with us today. And I'd like to thank my husband, Ted, for being my companion in these many places, wonderful places that we serve together. And I am humbled and honored this morning to receive the SOSA award. And the Sisters Charity of in Nur Sultan and throughout the world, as well as the staff and volunteers at the Green Pastures who help autistic children in Kazakhstan, are the ones who deserve credit for this award. Their volunteer work makes them real heroes. And so the question comes to, why did I volunteer? And I was looking for some positive activities where I could give a lending hand to the needy in Nur Sultan, and to show that we as diplomats are also part of the local community and we do care and would like to give back. So my volunteer work has reminded me to be thankful even in times of challenge. And volunteering enabled me to see my own problems from a different perspective. Moreover, it has taught me a lot about the local cultures of the places I have served. And so I offered my time, commitment, and my love, but I gained and learned a lot from the little I gave. The Bible says it is better to give than to receive, and I have found that to be true. I encourage all foreign service families to consider volunteering. Volunteer without expecting anything in return, but you will be surprised to see what you gain from the experience. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Muliani, for those moving words. And finally, alphabetically by geographic bureau, for the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, the winner of the Secretary of State's Award for Outstanding Volunteerism Abroad is Janet B. Peña Heredia. As a consular fellow in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Janet established a no-cost English language program for the local Guard force, with support from consular managers and the regional security officer. During her next tour in Rio de Janeiro, she began an English for Facilities staff program with support from the consular chief and facilities managers. Besides the obvious benefit of improving communication, these language programs empowered local staff to obtain better jobs and become more closely involved with the consulate community. This greater inclusion also led to opportunities for open and honest dialogue about equity and racism. And in Rio, Janet led the Community Engagement Committee, which supported a local orphanage. Thanks to the engagement fostered by her English language program, the facility staff donated their skilled work to carry out extensive renovations to an orphanage. Under Janet, the committee also organized beach cleanups and secured food donations for residents of a local community during the COVID-19 pandemic. Janet is joining us today from New York. Congratulations, Janet, and welcome.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you to the AAFSW for recognizing the volunteer work of the Foreign Service community. I would like to thank Jane Houston, Stephanie Espinal, Jeff Tomasevich, Manuela Hernandez, and everyone who collaborated in submitting this nomination. Thank you for being exceptional leaders and colleagues. Thank you to the volunteer English teachers, both officers and local staff, who continue to teach every week and keep this great program alive. And thanks to the local guards and facilities team for letting me be part of your learning experience for 5 years. I miss you all dearly. I would like to dedicate this award to 2 people in particular, Cremilson Silva and Monica Melo, 2 volunteer superheroes at the U.S. Consulate in Rio de Janeiro. Their most recent work has led to food, hygiene kit, and clothes donations for hundreds of people, and even building a new home for a cherished member of the community. Cremilson, Monica, as always, you say the word and I follow. Thank you for your strength and dedication to serving others. Back to you, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you. The SOSA Selection Committee was impressed with the many exceptional nominations and have designated honorable mentions to further recognize nominees. The 2021 honorable mention awardees include, for the Bureau of African Affairs, Ian Arzini. Ian organized a skateboarding program for Tanzanian youth, securing volunteer teachers, donated equipment and shoes, and a new concrete ramp at a local recreation center. Thank you, Ian. For the Bureau of East Asian and Pacific Affairs, Jenny Linton. Facing restrictions on local NGO efforts in Shanghai, Jenny organized consulate volunteers to create and deliver nearly 120 reusable hygiene kits to help girls attend school in India and Kenya. Jenny is here today. We'd like to ask her to come up to accept her award. Thank you, Jenny. For the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, Team Vaccine. Embassy Amman organized a vaccine task force in which more than 100 volunteers trained over the weekend vaccinated more than 1,000 mission personnel against COVID-19 in just 1.5 days. Mark Matthews is here today representing Team Vaccine. Mark, can you please come up for your certificate? Thank you, Mark. For the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, Amy Duhamel. Amy founded the volunteer group Giving Hearts in Bogota, recruiting her fellow EFMs and local volunteers to assist Venezuelan migrants and Colombian families in need during the pandemic. Thank you, Amy. AAFSW is extremely thankful for DACOR's help with hosting today's awards ceremony. I would now like to introduce James Dandridge II, who became president of DACOR in May of this year. His final Foreign Service posting before his retirement was as senior advisor during the creation of the State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs. Before joining the Foreign Service, Jim was a pioneer U.S. Army Special Operations Officer, earning the Green Beret from President John F. Kennedy. At this time, I invite Jim to present the Tragan Award.
Thank you very much, Laura, on this beautiful day in the center of government, 2.5 blocks from the White House and 3.5 blocks from the Department of State. We are extremely honored to host today's exceptional awards for volunteerism. Each year, DACOR, an organization of foreign affairs professionals, presents the Eleanor Dodson Tragan Award to a spouse, a family member, or a member of the associations which have effectively advocated for family members' role in the community, as did the late Mrs. Tragan. This year, I'm pleased to present the award to Fabiola Mann of Consulate General Sao Paulo. In June 2020, following protests and heightened awareness of racism and social injustice in Brazil and in the United States, Consulate General Sao Paulo organized a community discussion. In a raw and open exchange, participants shared their feelings of outrage, sadness, and frustration. Everyone had the same question: what can we do to make a difference? When the CLO asked for volunteers to organize the community's effort to promote social justice, an eligible family member named Fabiola Mann stepped forward. At the time, nobody could foresee what would be achieved. But looking back now, Fabi's accomplishments changed Mission Brazil forever. Fabi was tremendous at both leading and delegating, winning the respect and loyalty of her U.S. and staff partners, working without any formal budget or supervisory authority. Fabi designed and promoted tangible programs that advanced equity, diversity, and inclusion. And just for Consulate, not just for Consulate Sao Paulo only, but for the entire mission. She transformed how the community appreciated issues of race and social justice. As Fabi comes up to receive this certificate, I will read the award citation and present the award to Fabi. In recognition of her innovative and timely efforts to help Mission Brazil address issues of racism and social injustice following the 2020 protests that heightened awareness of these problems in Brazil and in the United States, in particular for creating Embrace, a group of roughly 40 U.S. direct hires and local staff at Consulate General Sao Paulo, dedicated to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, which became such a force for positions for putting social justice and racial equity at the center of Mission Brazil's work, improving the quality of life for hundreds of State Department employees and their families, and for making an enduring impact on one of the most important social issues of our age. Congratulations, Fabi.
Well, the mask needs me to take my earring off. Thank you so much. Thanks for everything, everybody who worked so hard to make sure this happens today. Thank you. I really appreciate every single one of you. What honor to be here today. So before I get lost in my emotion, I wrote some words for you guys to share with you guys today. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, Brazil, Sao Paulo, my team. Hello. What an honor to be here today. It's hard to express how much I appreciate this opportunity to be the recipient of this award. Thank you, Andy Stowe and Max Hamilton, who used to be our deputy principal officer, and Stowe is our management officer, for believing that the work I do deserves this recognition. Thank you, Mr. Tragan, who are now walking between us today, but set an example that we can change things we no longer accept. I hope I honor your name and your work today. My love and respect to you and your family. I want to let you know that this is not a one-man job. I might be standing here alone, but by my side in Sao Paulo, there is a group of extraordinary people who also believe that we should be judged by who we are, not how we look like. They brought me here today, and I carry them with me wherever I go. Thank you, Embrace team in Sao Paulo. In over a year, we have been learning and discussing how we can combat racism and prejudice against all minorities, and have read more than 40 books to little kids inside and outside our community, because we believe they will do better than us. Thank you to everyone who always support Embrace, and to all the parents who brought their kids to read along with us, Embrace Junior. No long ago, a person like me would not be able to use their voice, but here I am. Thanks. Today it was mine to honor my ancestors and pave the way for the next generation. I want to thank my family for the support, not only in Brazil, but also here in the US, my in-laws, and all my friends and colleagues in Mission Brazil, especially in Sao Paulo. Thanks to my husband, who decided to do this job and make sure I could do something like this today. And to my son Daniel, who every single day say how much it's important to learn, and that we should look people from the inside. He's the reason I wake up every day, making sure this is a better world for him and for others. Thanks, everyone. I love what I do. I do with all my heart. And as long as I breathe, I will say that we belong together and we are important. Everybody is, every human deserves the respect. Thank you very much.
And now I believe we have the privilege to hear from Mr. Irving Tragan, the founder of the Tragan Award in honor of his late wife, Eleanor Dodson Tragan, who is joining us from California.
Good morning. I want to tell you first how deeply impressed I have been by all of the presentations and how much I relate to each one of them. Through the years, social justice and recognition of the evils of racism were a major part of my own career. And this morning, it is a distinct honor for me to not only congratulate Fabi, but all of the other recipients of the award. The award was created simply as a means of considering and recognizing the work of the Foreign Service spouses. Over the years, I have watched, starting from the Truman administration through my retirement, the importance of the role of the family. And I was delighted that my wife, Eleanor, participated actively in the AAFSW for a couple of decades. And it is in order to continue that kind of service that the award was created. And Fabi, you, like Pat and so many others, are recognized for the work you were doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, there he is. Oh, thank you, Herb. So happy that you joined us today. Thank you for your inspiring words. Maybe next year in person. Thank you. Congratulations again to Fabi. Thank you again to Mr. Tragan, and thank you, DACOR and Mr. Dandridge, for this inspiring award program. At this time, I would like to introduce Bob Castro, who is also a past recipient of the Tragan and Sosa Awards. Bob is a founding member of AAFSW's EFM Employment Committee. He also created the Champions of Career Enhancement for EFM's award in 2014. The impetus of the award is to encourage those employees and EFMs who go above and beyond, specifically to advance the cause of EFM employment and careers. Bob also created PROPS, Professional Partners and Spouses of the Foreign Service, an online forum for peer-to-peer mentoring and a self-help network. Welcome, Bob, and thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. And I understand Deputy Secretary Julie Stuft is here, so if she could step forward, I'll make the introductions and then we'll introduce Tim, who's online in Atlanta at the Society of American Military Engineers, and he can make his acceptance remarks, but Julie will let you receive the certificate from Deputy Secretary McKeon. It's a pleasure to say that, Brian. I think it's been 2 decades since I started darkening your door at the Foreign Relations Committee, and hopefully you now have an office on Mahogany Road befitting your station. Each year, we have outstanding nominees for CCE EFM and increasing numbers and qualities of efforts around the globe, up and down the reporting chain of HROs, CLOs, GEAs, DCMs, these letter combinations that are all familiar to us in the Foreign Service family. All 6 nominees this year exemplified the criteria: exceeding expectations, creativity, sustainability and longevity of efforts, scope and reach, and impact on other decision makers while serving as a role model. And yet in 2021, winner Tim Stuft was a welcome departure in one significant way. His achievements came from outside the embassy infrastructure while working alongside it through a stellar US government contractor serving my former bureau, Overseas Buildings Operations, as well as DoD and other agencies. In the committee's view, Tim outscored others on our rubric as he singularly exemplified a groundbreaking private sector approach that can be a role model, while integrating GTM's tools and social media to leverage his intrinsically motivated quest to do the right thing, helping technically qualified EFMs maintain a career outside traditional lanes. Tim prevailed upon his employer, Plan 8, where he has risen the executive ranks and more senior roles despite numerous moves overseas, while his spouse rose the Foreign Service ranks, to approach staffing with innovative arrangements for himself and for others in the field, which is now the company's standard best practice for seeking talent downrange. Plan 8's founder is a true believer because Tim and his EFM hires proved the value proposition. Other companies will now have to follow suit to stay competitive. Tim also created a collaborative workspace for synergy among EFMs who are not part of his company. In his nominator's words, quote, Tim has effectively changed perceptions about EFM job opportunities, expanding expectations beyond assumptions that EFM employment must be local, at the mission, non-technical in nature, minimally compensated, and end when you depart post, end quote. Indeed, that's the case. The other 5 nominees deserve recognition too, because that is at the heart of the purpose of this award, to bolster and encourage those who go above and beyond their assigned duties to make lasting, impactful improvements influence policies with broadening scope that can be sustained in years to come. AAFSW is proud to recognize you, Tim. I think we have you online, and I give you the floor to make a few remarks while Julie steps up.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction, Bob. I would really like to thank AAFSW for this award, also for my nominator, Anesh, who's currently in AFM, serving in Kyiv, and my wife for being there this morning to accept on my behalf. When my family joined the Foreign Service 20 years ago, like many EFMs, I found myself in a foreign country wondering what I was going to do. And I'm thankful that over time, I've been able to find a few employers where the EFM lifestyle matches well. And to have moved up into a position here now at Plan8 where I'm able to make hiring decisions. And so with that capability and my knowledge of myself and coming across other EFMs, talented EFMs, I try to approach each hiring with an EFM first mentality and technological improvements along that 20 years and the increasing number of professional talented EFMs available have contributed to my receiving this award today. And I have to say, as Bob mentioned, the EFMs I've had the pleasure of hiring have been just incredible employees. So that contributes to being able to hire more because we've really bought into it. I've also benefited by online groups created by others, like the EFMs helping other EFMs find employment Facebook group. I encourage EFMs to join that. And the professional partners, spouses of foreign service LinkedIn group with 400 plus members now, another great group for folks to join. Groups like that has enabled me to reach talented EFMs wherever they are in the world. And you know, those of us in the foreign service life, where we never know where we might find up. In fact, where we're going to be. I've found myself in places I said I would never be, and yet there I was. And so our plan is to continue to reach out. My plan, wherever I am, I'm going to continue reaching out to the EFM community. And I'm sure at Plan8, our number of EFM employees will continue to grow. I would like to just conclude by saying, though I'm the person being recognized today, there really are other great EFM advocates within the Foreign Service and EFM community. And opportunities continues to grow. It just seems like it really hasn't been brighter ever for EFM employment. Thank you again for this recognition today.
Well, if you can step forward. I understand Tim had to accept an award on your behalf once when you were in Moscow, so let me step out of the way and get out of your shot.
Congratulations and thank you to Tim and thank you, Julie. We're glad you could join us today. At this time, I would like to call upon Meta Beecroft to present the Leslie Dorman Award. A longtime AFSW volunteer and member of our SOSA committee, Dr. Meta Beecroft is a former recipient of the Tragan and Dorman Awards, as well as an AAFSA Lifetime Achievement Award, and she is one of the few EFMs ever to receive a State Department Superior Honor Award. Meta played a key role in opening the Family Liaison Office in 1978, and she taught at the Foreign Service Institute for 16 years, briefing newcomers and many others on travel and transportation regulations through a course that she created. So we're honored to welcome Meta to present the Leslie Dorman Award. Thank you.
Many thanks, Patricia. First, just a few words about the Dorman Award itself. The late Leslie Dorman was a staunch supporter of the AFSW for almost 50 years, during which he was president for 5. Leslie wished to acknowledge other members of the organization for their sustained support. Thus, in 1993, the Dorman Award was established by the AAFSW in Leslie's honor. This year's recipient of the Dorman Award is Catherine Salvatera, who to this day continues to support the AAFSW quietly, regularly, and with great dedication. From 2003 to 2007, while on the board of the AAFSW, Kathy also served as one of the earlier chairs of the entire SOSA program, from first requesting nominations for the award from overseas to the final presentation of the awards in a Washington ceremony. Today, we recognize that SOSA has evolved considerably since its creation in 1990. Kathy understood early on that if SOSA were to become better established and recognized in the Department of State, SOSA management needed to create well thought out SOPs for the entire 8-month process. Kathy, with her ability to analyze, to organize, and to write concisely, created the perfect document. 10 years later, we could still use Kathy's SOPs as one of the ways to check that our current plans were complete. Part of establishing the SOSA program was the creation of an online SOSA history, detailing what each year's winners and numerous runners-ups had accomplished. Together, these summaries create a compelling case for the value of SOSA. Kathy had the wisdom to support and facilitate this valuable documentation from the very beginning. Immediately after Kathy left the AAFSW board in 2009, she began to volunteer for AAFSW's annual art and book fair and has done so regularly, often, and ever since. This includes helping to set up and working at the book fair itself, serving as cashier for the fair and in the book room, and especially pricing hundreds of books, which requires extensive knowledge, experience, and a lot of time. Kathy comments that all of her volunteer work during the last 2 decades has been based on her support for the role and mission of the AAFSW. She also appreciates that the organization provides a tangible and productive way to stay connected to the Foreign Service community. It is my great pleasure to present the 2021 Leslie Dorman Award to Kathy Salvatera for sustained outstanding service to the Associates of the American Foreign Service worldwide. Kathy?
Yes. Slipping away, there we go.
This sounds right. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, on this beautiful day and in this beautiful house. Thank you again to DACOR for hosting this morning. I am grateful to AAFSW for the 2021 Dorman Award. Volunteering for AAFSW has been a very rewarding experience for me since I retired from the department way back in 2003. I also want to congratulate all the 2021 AAFSW winners and of course the 2021 Tragan winner as well. The volunteer work demonstrated by all these awardees is the precise picture and a reminder of the best of the Foreign Service psyche, and that is creativity, compassion, and expertise. First, on a personal level, I've had the great pleasure of working with eligible family members who are volunteers for AAFSW. AAFSW represents a large and dynamic Foreign Service community. We have a common language, we have a common experience, and we have a common bond. As a retiree, this continued connection to the Foreign Service community has been very meaningful for me and rewarding. Secondly, I strongly support the advocacy role that AAFSW plays. Before I retired from the Department of State, I worked in the Global Community Liaison Office for 4 years, and I managed the Worldwide CLO program. So when I retired, I wanted to continue in some capacity in supporting that advocacy mission outside of the department. And frankly, AAFSW was the natural transition. Take a look at the AAFSW website. The online resources and services provided easily translate into advocacy issues that can impact a multitude of social, educational, and employment improvements for the entire Foreign Service community. Evacuee support, spouses in transition, special needs families, just to name a few. And it's very important to remember that AAFSW has the capacity to translate those advocacy efforts into changes in regulation and also legislation. Finally, I want to give a shout out to my cohort in crime, BJ Herrick. Since 2009, BJ and I have worked in the book room every Tuesday from January through September, pricing books. And we've made some interesting discoveries. We found some absolute treasures. We've also found that a lot of people use different denominations of US currency as bookmarks. And you would be amazed what people use as bookmarks. And I think we found hundreds of plane ticket stubs for seats. My point is that we've been doing this for, goodness, almost 12 years, and it's been very enjoyable, and we actually have a really good time. So my final comment, and I'm not sure how big our audience is virtually, but if you are an AAFSW member and you have not yet volunteered, I encourage you to step up and do that. I can guarantee you that it will be a very rewarding experience. Thank you again to AAFSW and to DACOR. I appreciate getting this award. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's awards ceremony. Today's event was made possible with the assistance of DACOR, including the use of their historic home as our backdrop, and their skilled production team led by Christine Skoden, assisting us with today's event on the GoToWebinar platform. Also, I do need to give a special thank you to Gabby Hampson and Jason Pantaleo in the Global Community Liaison Office for their continued support of our awards. Thank you again to Secretary Blinken for your recorded remarks today. And thank you, Deputy Secretary McEwen, for coming over to DACOR today to join us in person. Before wrapping up today's awards ceremony, I must ask our guest, would you like to be recognized for your selfless contributions to post morale or your host country? Would you like to nominate someone at Post for their tireless efforts to bring about positive change? If you answer yes, please submit a nomination for one of these awards in 2022. Details will be released in an all-DAC cable early next year. All members of the Foreign Service are encouraged to present nominations. At this time, I would like to turn things over to John Bradshaw, Executive Director of DACOR. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks to everyone who came today and everyone watching online. A special thanks to Ryan McCune, who mentioned we worked together on the Hill years ago, and I worked for a very difficult senator who presented many headaches to Brian. So I thank him for putting up with that. That's all in the past now. I would just say a few quick words about DACOR, and then I have an announcement that I think will be of interest to all of you here and online. DACOR is, as you know, an organization of foreign affairs professionals. We have all kinds of members. We have academics, journalists. The bulk of our membership is still foreign service officers and former foreign service officers. So everyone who's watching today is very likely eligible to be a member, and we encourage you to join. Being a non-resident member of DACOR used to not be very useful because people were in posts around the world and they could never come here. But all of our programming is now hybrid. You can watch every program we have here online from wherever you are. We do record them so you can watch them on your own timeline if you're a member. We have reciprocal clubs all over the world where you, if you're a DACOR member, you can use these clubs in London, and we have some in the Middle East and other places all around the world. So that's a good perk of being a non-resident member. So I encourage you to look at our website and see if you're interested in joining DACOR. I'm especially pleased today that we have such a great winner in Fabi Mon. She and her family are staying here in the house. They were staying here last night and will stay here tonight. And their 10-year-old son, Daniel, I was sitting behind him during the award ceremony. He was just thrilled to see his mom recognized by the secretary and deputy secretary. The announcement I wanted to make is that we are initiating a new scholarship named after Sherry Barndollar Rock, who was an executive director here at DACOR. She sadly passed away in 2020. She's also a winner of the Dornan Award some years back. This new scholarship will be for the academic, starting in the academic year 2022-23. It will meet the educational needs of foreign service spouses and partners. The Sherry Barndollar Rock Scholarship grants up to $4,000 for tuition annually to the spouses and partners of foreign service employees assigned abroad to pursue educational goals which may have been disrupted by the spouse's foreign service career. Please go to our website. There's a lot more information on there. We need nominations. It's a new award, so people are not that aware of it. Once we get the nominations, we will announce the scholarship winners. The deadline for applications is January 31st next year. So once again, thank you all for coming to our beautiful house here. And I know Deputy Secretary McCune has never been here before, so I hope he was suitably impressed, and we can give him a tour if he wants afterwards, but he probably has to get back very quickly. So thanks again, everyone. I know many of you are staying for lunch. We'll have lunch behind these doors here in our dining room, and to everyone else, thanks, and enjoy the rest of your week.